Take 3.
How you know all this gonna be cut out though, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Let the church say. Let the church say. Let the church say. Let the church say. Let the church say.
So just to be transparent, I actually got the money for it. He was still talking to me, but I can tell he was hurt. You know, I can hear it in his voice, but he was still supportive. And I actually went to the place to actually have the abortion. And I remember going in, and I remember going in, and nobody was outside when I went in, and I went in with a friend. And as I was in there, you know, it was like ladies in there, and they were talking like it was nothing. I mean, it was one little girl who was slumped over because I guess she was too far in her pregnancy to where they had to insert something up in her, and then she went home. And the mom was telling me that, and I'm looking at them like, y'all can just tell the story like that. And then another lady came in, and she was like, is this your first? Because I guess they saw my face or whatever. And I'm like, first of all, I'm thinking, you asking me, is this my first? Like, I'm getting ready to have a baby, you know. But it was just like it was the norm. And the whole time I'm sitting there, because the way people made it seem like it was the norm, I just felt low. I felt dirty. I just felt like this is not where I'm supposed to be. And I went back there in the room anyway, you know, and the lady actually, and I know it was God. I know it was God because I was laying on the table, and I didn't think I was that far along. I thought I was just like maybe 2 or 3 weeks. And she actually turned the monitor around and showed me my baby. She showed me Tiara, and she said, you are further along than you say you are. And she said, I know I'm not supposed to do this, but I don't think that this is something that you want to do. And this is what the nurse is telling me. And so I got up off that table and I walked out. It's just transparency. But I could not do it. And I remember coming out, and I remember calling him, and I told him I couldn't do it. And he just didn't say anything. I didn't know what to expect. I didn't know how to read what he was thinking, but he just held the phone and he said nothing. He said nothing. I don't even remember how we got off the phone. I don't even remember the rest of that day, but my daughter Tiara, Brittany Hollis, is here, 24 years old, beautiful, and I would have regretted her not being here.
And when she called me, I remember the call. I remember not knowing what to say. And I think that following day, you know, she invited me over, and we went out and maybe got some food or something, and we began to talk. And I think she was more, I could tell, just thinking back, I think she didn't really know how to express it, or like say, like, you know, she was kind of more ashamed that she had even thought about doing, you know, something like that, or even that maybe that she had pushed me away. But man, it was like, and it's crazy how things work, man, because it's like we're maybe 8 to 10 years into our marriage, and it's like we finally started discussing that type of stuff, and it was like I never dealt with that trauma, right. Never dealt with that hurt of being pushed away. And it started to kind of manifest itself, you know, in our marriage, in the way how sometimes, you know, I was talking to her, how I respond to her and stuff like that. But yeah.
But I forgot, just to make it a little light, This is just me. Fast forward, backtrack. When I was a little nervous about meeting his parents when they said that when he told me he was a PK kid, and I'm like, oh goodness. And I don't know why, because I was a country kid and never really had issues with people disliking me because I was a likable person. People always said I was a plain Jane. And I was strange, and I had my own way of thinking. I wasn't the type of person to be like anybody else. I just was me. I didn't have to wear the clothes that people wore. People always said I didn't fit in certain situations, and I don't ever know what that meant. But I remember him telling me that it was one young lady he was dating, and he brought her to the house, and his dad said, "Don't you bring that girl over here no more." And I'm like, why would you tell me that?
I was a young lady I was dating when she gave me her number. And literally, I walked in the door the next night from bringing her over. He told me, "Don't you bring that young lady over here no more." Like he said it like she had a demon or something inside
right,
of her.
So I'm like, well, I'm not saved. If he a pastor, he gonna think he gonna see a demon in me or whatever. And so I was kind of nervous to meet his dad.
But to her surprise, when she came over for the first time, it was like they just like took to her.
The first thing he said was, "Have something to eat."
Yeah, and her having that meal that day and having a chance to sit down and talk with him. I think maybe we went to the movies, we chilled. Maybe I got home probably about 1 or 2 in the morning. My dad was still up. That's when we were young, and I could only get about 3 or 4 hours of sleep and still get up and go to work the next morning at 6 or 7.
Man, can't do that.
47 can't do that now. But yeah, he stayed up, and literally when I walked in the door, he was sitting there, and my dad was kind of weird. He would never drink. He'd pour his coffee in a cup. He'd pour his coffee in a coffee cup, but then he'd get a saucer. He'd have a saucer, and he'll pour coffee in the saucer till it fills up, and he'll sip the coffee from the saucer. And when I walked in the door and locked the door behind me and turned around, he was sitting there in his chair. And he said to me, and this is one of me being young, rebellious, one of the first pieces of advice that I took from my dad. He said, "Man, if you let that one get away, you're a bigger fool than I think you are." I mean, first it struck me because, hold up, my pop think I'm a fool? But then I got past that, and I listened to the meat of what the message was. He said that she reminds me so much of your mother when she was her age. And then coming along later on in life and recently, I'm just finding out, right about our peak of getting together and meeting was we were like 2021. My mom and dad met when they were 2021. So I was just like, wow, that's crazy finding that out. But yeah,
he was an intricate part of our
marriage. He was a majorly intricate part of our marriage. The rest is dear soul. We decided to keep the baby, and now we're going through the pregnancy. There for all the doctor's visits, doctor's appointments. There for everything that went on. I mean, literally moving her around town, being there, listening to everything that's going on. I didn't miss an appointment. And then at some point it became a strain, with her being at her uncle's house, living with her, because she was not the only, they had children, and then they had cousins that was living there too. So it became a strain with her being there at the house. So now, she's calling me, telling me, hey, this and all this different stress and stuff that she's going through. And I'm thinking, okay, man, she got my kid, she got my baby. I gotta get her up out of this place. So man, I literally did everything that I could to scrounge up all the money that I did, worked overtime, took another job until like maybe in 3 weeks of her telling me that, we moved out. Now again, never had anything. Never had anything, never in our name. Probably 20 years old, hadn't done anything with credit or none of that stuff. You know what I'm saying? The only thing we had knew, was probably FAFSA. Getting into school. So here it is, got to try to find out, man, get an apartment. So I was working at the city of Houston at that time. That was like guy by the name of Prince Mackey. he lived in an apartment complex, and I was telling him about what the situation was. And he was like, "Man,
Oh, you went at Oak Farms?
was I at Oak Forest then?"
I think so.
No, we lived off Concourse when I was with the city because remember Mackie lived over there.
Okay. I don't know. Okay.
Yeah. And he said, I'm going to talk to my manager, man. I'm going to talk to the property manager at my apartments, man, and put in a good reference for you. And that's what he did, man. And 3 weeks after she told me that, we, moved into our apartment right off of Concourse, if you're in the Houston area, right off of Beltway and Bissonnette. And no furniture, no nothing. You know what I'm saying? We just moved in. And we moved together, first apartment. I mean, we went to like a little side place, a little furniture store, and that's one of those places where you can get like a whole one bedroom apartment full of furniture for like $5.99, $6.99, something like that. Real cheap furniture, right? But I mean, we was happy, right? We was happy with what God gave us, man. And again, I was pursuing music, so I was working, coming home, leaving from one side of town, picking her up from Sunnyside, driving across down to the southwest side.
We only had one car.
Because we only had one car. Dropping her off at work, then me going back to work.
And me having to get Tiara to daycare because I started working.
Well, we didn't even talk about when Tiara was born. We just kind of skipped over there.
Oh. Well, we got to go back then because I had her.
Yeah, you had her while you was living with your
Uncle Donneray.
Yeah.
With shout out to Uncle Donneray and Marcel Copeland, who pretty much gave shelter to all of it. Actually, they offered to four of my siblings because it's 5 in total. 2 of them were older; they had boyfriends or whatever. But he really, was there for us. I can't say, and he didn't have much. He had his own kids, his own wife. But he opened up his house to us, and it was rough, but we made it. Had great relationships with his kids. Really wasn't no issues or anything. And I actually, to this day, I can say those are the best cousins that I really do have. I don't talk to them much, but if they seeing this, they know from the bottom of my heart, they are the best cousins that anyone could ever have. Shout out to Danny C. That is Danielle.
So
But
you saying that I can remember, man, when a few days, I think, after you told your uncle you were pregnant, like we were all living, y'all were all sitting in the living room, and I mean from siblings to cousins and everybody, and I believe he came in and he was walking out the bedroom, and I was sitting in there, Richard. Y'all remember how he has this type of way that he talks.
I'm trying to be distinguished.
Richard, let me speak to you for a moment. And so he pulled me outside, and we sat on the car and talked. And he said, "Man, what is your plan? What is your plan?" And I mean, I right off the top of the head, I was like, "Man, well, I'm working. We're gonna get an apartment. We move together, man, and we just take care of Tiara, take care of our child. You know what I'm saying? And God bless. God really covered us during that time from the love that He has for us and the prayers that that my parents were praying for us. Everything that I gave Him and said that I was going to do, God blessed me to do. Through both of us working hard, and it was maybe not until I say maybe a year or two ago that me and him, her Uncle Donald, got a chance to talk. And, he literally told me, and that meant a lot to me too. He said, "Man, Richard, I'm proud of you guys for what I look at what you all been able to do, man. And it's like, you all have really been blessed, man. And I'm proud. I'm proud of you, man. And you really kept your word of what you said you were going to do."
Okay.
So
Midnight Rambler.
Come here. This first episode has been basically all about her. So it wouldn't make sense with her coming in the house. Come show your face right quick. Come here. Come step in. You can just come step around the back.
My flower child.
This is our firstborn, Tiara. This first episode we're talking about her, God blessing us with this beautiful one here.
So yep, moved in, and we gotta put a name to it and call it what it is. Started shacking.
Yeah. Like I say, we definitely want to be transparent. And
that was in 1997.
Yeah, be transparent about everything as we're doing this. And if I could, I'd like to just pause right here and just let every young person out there know that no matter what situation you may be in, you may feel like you may be pregnant, young man, you may be in a situation where you've gotten a young lady pregnant. Don't ever think of God's blessing of a child as a mistake. No matter what anybody tries to tell you, if that child is here and that sperm was able to make it to that young lady's egg, God is the only giver of life. God is the only one that can breathe life into a human being. He's the only giver of life. So if that child is here, that child was conceived, no matter how it went, no matter how the situation went, that child is a blessing. Don't let anybody tell you otherwise. God, just like He fixed our situation, we've been together 25 years. And God has blessed us to do an amazing amount of things, an amazing amount of success in our eyes. Don't let anybody tell you that your life is over, that you've messed up your life, you've done any of that. Because guess what? God takes mess and makes a message out of it.
Yep.
That will be the beginning of your testimony.
Trials, triumphs and trials.
Yeah.
And at the end of the day, still take precautions because it's a battle. It's a battle and it's a struggle. We're not gonna make it seem like it was easy because it was not.
We did it all, man. We did it all. We did not do it the way that the Bible prescribes it to be done. I mean, we had kids before marriage. We acted in fornication. We moved together. What old people what the seasoned folks call shacking. We did it all the wrong way, but God's mercy and grace and the prayers of the people that we had around us, my mom, my dad, Aunt Delma.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? These are God-fearing people that God placed in our lives to keep us covered in prayer, keep us covered in prayer, and keep us covered in God's word. Now, I can't remember a time where we would go around Aunt Delma, or we would go visit, or either our parents, and they would not have a word for us. They would not have encouragement for us.
Yeah. But it's a struggle. But and you can do it the right way, and it still just may be a struggle. Because at the end of the day, you have to pretty much know who you are. You have to be confident. You have to know the direction in which you're going, and even you can have all of that. Things can still go astray. Things can still be a struggle. But if so it's not so much as a right and a wrong way. But at the end of the day, if you have Christ, and Christ is the forefront, and you truly believe, because a lot of us can say we're believers, but yet and still when things happen, we want to question and we.
Well, I'll even take it one step further than that. Even in this situation, me being a PK, knowing of God, knowing of Christ, and living in sin, doing everything the word I know had told me not to do, God was still merciful. God still showed grace, because the one thing I still knew to do, I knew to pray.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? There's times at work, you know what I'm saying? I'd be by myself, I'd be in my truck, and things would just get overwhelming. I knew the final place for me to go to was to pray. But even in that, me sitting here saying that, the first thing I should have went to was prayer.
Yeah.
Yeah, you know what I'm saying? We make the mistake of we want to pray at the last resort.
Right.
And that should be the first thing that we put our heart and our mind to do.
Relationship.
So that time, as they say on Good Times, scratching and surviving, we went through, years of that. And good times, ain't we lucky we got them. Good times. Yeah, so scratching and surviving, and then we come to 1999. This is my stint in traveling and music and Atlanta and summer everywhere, trying to shop a music deal, get a record contract with the group. And while we were away in Manhattan at the time, God arrested my heart at an R&B music conference at the hotel one night. Could not sleep. Did not know why I could not sleep. Picked up a CD that I was given at the R&B music conference, and did not know that God would use that song to soften my heart, my heart and heart. It was BB Winans, Joe, and Brian McKnight, and the song was called "Coming Back Home." And so I'm walking the hotel, walking the streets of Manhattan, listening at that song, and I'm just bawling. And I don't know why. Every word, every lyric, every stanza that they sung of that song, like literally just like ripping, just ripping parts of my heart open. And so what I did not know was that while I was there in Manhattan, my mom and dad and Gladys, my girlfriend at the time, were back here in Houston praying and had just got off the phone. And so when I called her, it was maybe 3 or 4 in the morning, maybe one or two or something here.
Like that.
And she picked up the phone on the first ring, and I mean, I couldn't even explain to her why I was crying, but came back home from that business meeting, and had to tell the guys that I couldn't do it anymore. God was calling me to something else. And that following weekend, we went to a church here on the Southwest Side with Pastor Greg Patrick. I think it's you remember the name of the church?
I do not.
It
escapes.
Yeah, it escapes you right now. But it's Pastor Greg Patrick, and he preached a sermon. How far have you strayed away from God? And like before I knew it, I mean, out of me being in church my entire life, being the son of a PK, growing up in Kojic, being around all convocations, all revivals, everything you can name it. That was the first time ever in life. I knew about Jesus. I knew who Jesus was, but that was the first time ever in life that someone had ever taken the gospel and made Jesus personal to me. And
or maybe it was they probably did, but you weren't receptive.
No, I'm being honest. I mean, I've literally sit and thought about that over the years, and as many times I told this story, I could still say the same, that no one had ever, being in church and parents taking kids to church and having them in all these different type of things, different kids church and having them in church, all this type of stuff. If they're there and they're not listening, or nothing strikes or nothing pricks their heart. You know what I'm saying? No one had ever made the gospel personal to me. And I remember Pastor Patrick using an analogy, saying that when they pressed the thorns on his head, that a trickle of that blood, that none of the blood that trickled down mingled with another drop of blood. And he says that blood fell and it hit the ground. One of those drops of his blood, was for you. And me personally, man, I felt that he was talking to me personally when he said that.
The Bridge?
And yeah, the Bridge. Yeah, the Bridge. Yeah. That was the name of the church, the Bridge. And when I found myself, I was at the altar, halfway on the altar, on the stairs going up to the pulpit, and in the pulpit, laying in the pulpit. And I don't even remember. I think I stepped over the pews. I don't even think I ran down the aisle. I literally stepped on the people's pews to get up there. So, and after all of that, we fast forward to, I want to say, like I said, 99, Christmas Eve. And I decide that, it's time to, propose. So, got everything together, One of my friends that I work with, a coworker, his wife had a salon. So, I fixed everything.
Talk about how it was when you asked my dad at my aunt's house.
You remember that?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, well, you can tell it because I don't remember it.
Well, I don't remember how you did it. I just remember you told me that.
Oh, well, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, well, yeah. Okay, outside. Yeah, I asked the dad to come outside, And I asked him, hey man, I showed him the ring, and I asked him, and man, it was like he just. Now that you said, I remembered. Okay, it's like I had never seen your dad smile that big before, and I had never seen without a beard in his hand. So it was
Yeah, that's
so yeah, man. Oh yeah, man. Oh man. Yeah, man. Richard, he grabbed my shoulder, he shook me like, yeah, man. Oh man, yeah, no, man. Oh man, that's great, man. So, I asked one of my partners. His wife had a salon. I set up to where she can go get her hair done, and
'cause I never have gone to a salon.
all made up, and I mean, it was just like, and I know just the when I surprised and took in there, it was like all the women were just like, oh, all that type of stuff there, and so while she was getting that done, her hair and stuff done, and getting pampered and taken care of, I was setting everything up for the night for the later that night when we went out and we scrounged up a paycheck and took her out to a nice place to eat. And Christmas Eve of 1997, right in front of the water wall over near the Galleria, I proposed and asked her to marry me, and she said yes. Mm-hmm. And April 15th of 20,000.
Mm-hmm. 2,000. 20,000.
Yeah, 20,000. Yeah, April 15th of 2000, we were walking down the aisle. We got married, and we have been together ever since. And has it been a struggle? Yes.
Yep.
Has everything been easy? No. Have we had some hard times and struggles and days and months where we think we weren't gonna make it? Yes, we have. I mean, times we thought about separating. Yes, we've been through it all. Anything that you can imagine in 22 years of marriage, we've pretty much been through it all. And that's what we want to talk about within this podcast. But what we want to do is, with everything that we give you, we want to take the opportunity to tell you what happened, how God saw us through, and what we learned from it. So that's where we are. That's the purpose of the podcast, in hopes that our journey and our situations, things that we've been through, our struggles, our failures and successes, can help you.
And it's an opportunity for us too, with all the business of the day. It's also an opportunity for us to dialogue and communicate and force us to do what we're supposed to do, and for Christ, because we're just instruments.
Yeah.
And we're allowing us to use Him to use us.
I ran from this for a long
and this is not me. People who know me, he know this is not me. He was already saying, "You ready for it?" And I'm like, "Hey, just gotta do it."
And it's crazy because you would think a person that's in music, like she said before, man, I was confident. I was, it was a cockiness. It wasn't confidence. It was a false confidence. And it's amazing how God will take time and take years to humble you and literally break all of that down only to build you back up in Him. Mm-hmm. And out of many years, man, I've reached out to different brothers. I've reached out to different men and said, "Hey, man, I want you to mentor me. I want you to do this." But God would never allow it to work out. God would never allow it to work out, man. It was like there was I can't explain it. God would never allow it to work out. But it's almost like God was saying to me, whatever you get, I'm gonna give it to you. Whatever you need, I'm gonna supply, so that I'll get the glory out of it. And that's what God has been doing, man. God has literally stripped me of any and every resource that I've had, and He's slowly and surely building me back up in Him.
Because sometimes we can get to a point where it's nothing wrong with community, it's nothing wrong with reaching out. But sometimes we can get to a point to where we end up depending on that. And we feel like that's our source, and we feel like that we can't make it unless we're, talking to somebody, or, somebody is calling us. But at the end of the day, it's the foundation of Christ. It's having a relationship with Him. It's knowing that at the end of the day, He is the one that's going to keep us together, and He's the one that's going to actually supply us with all of our needs. And so I think we just get to a point to where we validate people, we validate man. And think that that's where our source of everything comes from, in a sense, what I'm trying to say. We just feel like that anything that we have, it has to be validated through man. And that is not the case. It's first and foremost is Christ. And that's where the building of the foundation of the relationship comes from. And once you get that, the other people that comes, they're there to help and to guide you, because even you can get to a point where you feel and God has you, you still will need that comfort from others. But because you already have the foundation, we already have the foundation, or anybody. Once you get that foundation in Christ, and once you have that relationship with Him, and you have that prayer life, you have that fasting life with Him, then people can't fail you. My motto, my expectations of people, I set low. He used to always say, and when I would say it, I don't know if it was you felt like I was wrong for saying it or it was an issue, but I would always say that in people that I set my expectations very low. And with Christ, I have no expectations, because people fail you, man fail you. Not everybody, and sometimes they don't even have it within them to be what you need for them to be. And so at the end of the day, we know Christ never fails.
Amen, amen, amen. We thank you all for taking this inaugural ride with us here on our first episode of the Married to Ministry podcast. In upcoming episodes, we will be discussing more, the good, the bad, and the ugly. But we're going to make sure to saturate it all in the gospel. Do this for us. Take a moment to hit the subscribe button and subscribe to our YouTube channel. Click the social media links to follow us at our social media platforms. We need you guys along for this journey. Your prayers, your support, your questions, and your topics. Email us at info.marriedtoministry@gmail.com with your comments and questions. Visit our website to become a member and receive updates on new podcast episodes, merchandise, giveaways, upcoming releases, and more.
Thank you all again, and may God keep and bless you.
Peace.
Let the church say.